Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. I guess my apologies for the short delay. We had a wee bit of technical difficulty, but we are back and ready to go. It is 7:02, and welcome to the June 3rd meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish?
Here.
Councilmember Harrison?
Here.
Councilmember Song?
Here.
Councilmember Watson? Councilmember Rodina?
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer?
Here.
Councilmember Ackman?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs? Councilmember Cornell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? The agenda is approved. Do we have communications today from our city administrator?
Actually, yes, Mayor. As you know, we're moving through the year of our Bicentennial celebration. We've had a number of activities thus far. We still have several in front of us. On May 25th, which was the city's actual birthday, there were several activities, and in particular, a picnic that was executed in downtown. I would like to thank and recognize the groups that organized those activities. If you are in the audience and you are a member of the History Subcommittee or the Bicentennial Coordinating Committee, Library Green Conservancy, Destination Ann Arbor, State Street District, and Kemp House, if any of you are in the audience, if you could rise, please, just to be recognized. These individuals put in volunteer time of planning for over 6 months to implement those activities, and it's only appropriate that we recognize their contributions. Mr. Crockett is here to make a special presentation, so if you'll go to the podium, I'll come out and join you.
I would like to thank everyone on this committee. There's been the celebration on May the 25th really was a culmination of close to a year and a half of work, including the work of the Bicentennial Subcommittee, 17 projects, total of 40 people. It was an honor to be on it, and I thank you very much. I am pleased to present these beautiful memorial posters that are provided by State Street District and Destination Ann Arbor. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they were displayed. Oops. They were displayed at the Bicentennial, and we are going to be presenting sets to the City of Ann Arbor. We hope they're displayed here at City Hall somewhere, the museum on Main Street, the Ann Arbor District Library, and the Bentley, so that it serves as a continuing memorial to that event. So on behalf of the history... Oh. So thank you very much. So in behalf of the History Subcommittee and everyone who's been working on this project, we would like to present these posters to you, Mr. Dahoney, and to all the city staff. And thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. I'm making our wheel of fortune. Thank you.
I'm sure you would succeed in most all endeavors. We now have a set of introductions. First, from our Independent Community Police Oversight Commission, our update from our chair, Chair Carter. Oh, there you are.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, Mr. Administrator, and members of council. Again, it's a pleasure to be here with you representing the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. I would just like to start by saying congratulations to all the young people on behalf of our commission. It's lovely to see so many of you here and be honored today. Thank you. Very short report today. We did have our public forum last week, and it was lovely. And we had about 50 community people come out and meet with the new chief. And there were a lot of questions, which he answered, and we had a very good occasion. The only other thing, at the time of the forum, we were able to pass out, and if I knew there were going to be so many people here, I would have brought a big stack. But we mentioned to the chief that we would like to have, with regard to the driving equality ordinance, we'd like the public to know exactly which are the infractions that now the police will not pull over a car. And very responsive to what we asked for, and we have a whole stack of these to pass out so that the community will have them and know exactly what it is now. So we appreciate that. If anybody would like one, I have a few with me today. And also we do not meet, our commission does not meet in July and August. So you may not hear much from us again until the fall. We do, however, still intend to receive complaints or compliments about our police department. Our office will be open. Complaints can be received. Compliments we like compliments as well when our police officers do things that the public wants to recognize. So that is the end of my report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much, and we'll see you in September.
Super. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So it's my great pleasure today to effect a proclamation celebrating June 2024 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month here in the city of Ann Arbor. Of course, LGBTQ plus rights and engagement in our community is absolutely crucial to who we are in the city of Ann Arbor. It is crucial to who we are and fundamental to our present, but it is also, I'm so proud to say, an incredibly important part of our past. Of course, as folks know, Kathy Kozachenko, a city council member in these chambers, as previously constituted, was the first LGBT plus person to be elected, open LGBT plus person to be elected to office in the United States of America, that being 50 years ago today, preceded by two prior council members who also came out during the course of their service. And with that, it's my great pleasure to read a fair bit of the proclamation to talk a little bit about it. Whereas each June, LGBT plus people and their friends and family recognize the journey towards liberation and those who have fought for equality, including the queer and transgender people of color who took to the streets in New York City at the Stonewall Inn and in cities across the country. And whereas the city of Ann Arbor continues to lead within the state of Michigan in working to advance equality and safety for LGBTQ plus people, including through robust non-discrimination protections and a ban on the discredited practice of conservation therapy. And whereas this year, the city of Ann Arbor celebrates its bicentennial and marks the 50th anniversary of the election to City Council of Kathy Kozachenko, the first openly LGBTQ plus person elected to elected office in the country, making this an ideal time to reflect upon Ann Arbor's rich history and celebrate our ongoing work to protect rights. And whereas LGBTQ plus people, especially transgender people, continue to face state-sponsored forms of discrimination that limit their political, economic, and social agency and access to gender-affirming and other health care. Now, therefore, I, Christopher Taylor, Mayor of Ann Arbor, Michigan, do hereby proclaim June 2024 as Pride Month and affirm our city's commitment to working against discrimination and violence against LGBTQ+ people and ensuring that all people in the city of Ann Arbor have dignity, equality, and justice. There you go.
I would just say thank you very much and happy Pride Month to everybody.
Thank you. And now we have the Ray Detter Local History Award to a bunch of folks from Scarlett Middle School. So come on over.
About 10 years ago, a number of citizens got together and decided to honor Ray Detter, whose decades of community service and his interest in history. He was behind the Historical Street Exhibit program, which you see throughout town. We decided to honor him. And Ray, being an educator, we thought the best way to honor him would be to have an educational prize. And this year, we put the Ray Detter Local History Award back in play after years of hiatus from COVID, and at the recommendation of Dr. Jared Alman. Jared, stand up. He said, why don't you include middle schoolers? And I said, okay. Well, Scarlett Middle School is shining like a bright sun because the best projects we got were all from Scarlett, and in this bicentennial year, they're in the same neighborhood where our newly renamed Bicentennial Park is. So I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Cabot, their teacher, to come up and read their names and their projects.
Oh my gosh, come on over.
So I'm going to announce the students' names and the topic of the project, and as I say them, why don't you come up and join us along this way, and we'll say something to everybody. The first one I'm announcing is Abby Avram, who did a wonderful project on the history of Zingerman's. Ursa Hanna and Venus Pereira Corrales did a project on the start of Ann Arbor. Amelia King did a project on the history of the Michigan football stadium. I'm going to add, these are in no particular order, just the list that I got, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Owen Finney and Jason Turner did a project on the Huron water system. Kylan Mayfield Sanders and Seneca Harper did a project on homelessness in Ann Arbor. Ramona Winters did a project on local businesses.
Come on down this way too.
Ryan Williams and Gerald Turner did a project on the university and its fight for peace. And Cece Lawler did a project on the history of jazz in Ann Arbor.
So there's really, nothing better than local history and students who are learning about their local history and committed, I'm sure, to make their own. And so I just want, on behalf of myself and the entire council in the city, just want to say thank you, and we're just incredibly proud about the work that you've done and the work that you're going to do. So thanks. You're the best. Yeah, so students coming. Is that a couple more on this side?
Or next to your brother. Go next to your brother. So.
Yeah, that's good. There's a couple on the front. Here, scooch it in. Oh, yeah, that's good.
That works.
Excellent. Thank you again. Congratulations. That's super cool. So again, thank you so much. You're the best, and I'm so glad you're here. Now we have our Historic District Commission Awards. We're going to do a little bit differently this year. Ms. Weinberg, Ms. Thatcher, come on down. I will cede the microphone to you and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a ton.
Yeah.
All right.
Oops, gotta get my glasses out. Wow, those kids are a hard act to follow. Hi, my name is Susan Weinberg. I'm the chair of the Historic District Commission Awards Committee. And I would like to thank you on behalf of the commission, the mayor and city council, for once again giving us the time to present the annual awards to the community. The HDC would also like to thank members of the awards committee, including Pat Austin, Catherine Fortner, Ellen Ramsberg, Grace Shackman, Tom Stolberg, Francis Wright, and Francis Wright. I would personally like to thank the hard work done by the staff, Jill Thatcher, Historic Preservation Coordinator, and Mariana Mellon Corcoran, the city planner. And we'd all like to congratulate the winners. Our format this year has changed due to time constraints. We will go through the PowerPoint, and at the end, all of the recipients will stand for applause. The actual awards will be on the table out in the hall. Our historic buildings are a precious resource. They tell the stories of our community and say who we are, where we've been, and what we hope to be. They are our secret sauce, our unique character, and our history all rolled into one. Without our buildings, we cannot tell their stories. That is why we honor those who have preserved them for future generations to learn from. We are sorry that several owners were not able to attend tonight. So every spring we give awards in several categories. The first category are preservation awards, which are given in recognition of superior maintenance of a significant property to preserve the essential historical, cultural, and architectural value for a period of 10 years or more. Rehabilitation awards are given to projects that have substantially returned a property to its historic condition. Special merit awards are given for exceptional projects, landscapes, or other unique preservation projects, including lifetime achievement. And Centennial awards are presented in recognition of businesses and organizations that have existed in Ann Arbor for 100 years or more. Our first preservation award is to 1617 Cambridge Road. Yes, good. Well, we're on the same page. This notable arts and crafts stucco home was built in 1917 for Dr. Murray Cowie, a well-known physician. Dr. Cowie was appointed Ann Arbor physician in 1897 and was a professor of pediatrics at the University of Michigan. His most significant claim to fame was urging the state to require that iodine be added to salt to prevent goiter. At the time, Michigan was the center of the so-called goiter belt because so many people suffered from goiter. And this simple solution was something Dr. Cowie got the state of Michigan to do, and eventually the whole country. The current owners have wonderfully preserved this building with its unusual arched windows. The award goes to David Ammer and Nell Duke. The second award goes to 2001 Vinewood Boulevard. Built in 1919, this prairie-style house was designed by J.J. Rousseau to be his own home. Rousseau was a professor of architecture at the University of Michigan. and he incorporated characteristic features of the prairie style, such as a flat roof, projecting eaves, symmetrical arrangement of windows and doors, and the use of light-colored brick punctuated with bands of darker brick. Later, another highly regarded professor of Romance languages, Julio del Toro, and his wife lived in the house for many years. This award goes to David and Norma Golovoy. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. No. And now 2017 Vinewood. We had a Vinewood epiphany this time. This Tudor-style house was built in 1929 for Finley and Sally Riggs. The unusual dormers and large exterior chimney on the front contribute greatly to the beauty of the street. An 1891 article in the Ann Arbor Register described Vinewood as, quote, a magnificent avenue carved from the old Verdun fruit farm, and it is doubtful it can be surpassed by anything in Detroit, unquote. The current owners have done a wonderful job keeping this house beautiful and enchanting to passersby. This award goes to Lawrence and Elizabeth Jordan. And then one more Vinewood, 2023 Vinewood. This wonderful mid-century modern house was built in 1951 and designed by local architect Thomas Tanner. It was built for Harry Cook, a dentist and friend of the architect who lived there until the 1990s. Cook was the son of Thomas Cook, one of the two men who founded the Ann Arbor Foundry on Jones Drive, now known as the Northern Brewery and its own historic district. The current owners have maintained this house in pristine condition, and the award is presented to Bruce and Andrea Laidlaw. 819 Avon Road. This mid-century modern house was designed by George Brigham, who is considered the father of modern architecture in Ann Arbor. This house was built in 1950 at the height of Brigham's career, and it was for Professor Leslie White, a well-known anthropologist, and his wife, Mary. The current owner has kept the interior in pristine condition and hired local architect Robert Metcalf to remodel some of the frontage, allowing us to see the true talent of Brigham. The award is presented to David Duramedy and posthumously to his wife Nancy Duramedy, who organized A2 Modern, an advocacy group for mid-century modern architecture. 1021 Chestnut Street. This 1961 house, designed by acclaimed local architect Robert Metcalf, was built for Kenneth Case, a professor of physics at the university, who, among many other things, worked in the Manhattan Project with Robert Oppenheimer. This is our connection to Oppenheimer, the movie. Metcalf was a consummate architect in Ann Arbor during the 1950s and 60s, and was both trained at and on the faculty of the University of Michigan's School of Architecture. He's also the dean of the School of Architecture. Today's owners have kept this mid-century house in beautiful condition. The award is presented to Charles and Joan Burley. 214 Crest. This 1914 home is a typical Old West Side house of the early 20th century. The Dutch Revival style was first occupied by Frank Marx, a mason born in Germany. The house has many original features intact, including windows, doors, and the garage with a two-strip driveway. Very unusual. It has been preserved by the current owner since 1968. It is in the Old West Side Historic District. The award is presented to Mary Parsons. 1101 West Liberty. This arts and crafts style house with matching garage was built in 1917 for Albert Lutz. Lutz was the owner of the Reliable Shoe Dealer, a shop on East Washington Street. The current owners purchased the property in 2011 and have kept the architecture in wonderful condition while updating the interior and mechanical systems. It is located in the Old West Side Historic District and was featured on the Old West Side Homes Tour in 2018. This award goes to Philip and Kimberly Hughes. That's it for our preservation awards. Now we go to rehabilitation awards. Oops, we skipped Broadway. Oops. Where's Broadway? No Broadway. Well, this is a special merit award. the Special Merit Award, you can see from the photo, they have restored these beautiful porches to this Queen Anne-style brick house, which was built by Frederick Schleicher between 1890 and 1895. It has a beautiful corner bay on a lovely fieldstone foundation and decorative work in the gables. Schleicher owned a grocery store on Main Street, and he built this on the site of his family's original house, which he moved to the back of their lot, so it's still there on 3rd Street, I believe. The Special Merit Award is presented to Janet Muehlman for the removal of the non-historic fire escapes and the construction of period-perfect porches on the front and side elevations. Say that fast, period-perfect porches. Okay, wait. And now we have Broadway. This is a rehabilitation award. 1435 Broadway was built in 1929 and is a Montgomery Ward kit house in the colonial revival style. It was in very sad shape and was recently renovated with the porch and windows restored. Overgrown bushes and weeds that completely obscured the house were removed as well. It was originally built by Frank Walworth, a carpenter, and replaced an earlier house on the site that dated to 1872. The house has a clipped side gable and slender door columns which support an elliptical arched entry. It is located in the Broadway Historic District. This award goes to Christina and Andre Dolata. And 503 West Jefferson. This vernacular cross-gable Queen Anne house was built by William Heft for his family in 1890. He raised 9 children in the home after his wife died of pneumonia in 1899. This was a big deal. There was an article about it in the local newspaper. He raised... Both were immigrants from Germany, and William was trained as a carpenter. He was active with organizations such as the Ancient Order of United Workmen, for which he served as the overseer. The current owners have lived in the house since 2013 and have removed non-historic siding, restored original elements. It is located in the Old West Side Historic District. The award is presented to John and Grace Vandervliet. And our Centennial Award goes to the Kiwanis Club, which was organized May 13, 1921, with 6 charter members. They were a little late on the Centennial part. That was COVID. In 2011, the club had 176 members, making it the largest Kiwanis club in Michigan. The Ann Arbor Club began raising money in 1927 through their now famous thrift sales. First held in the Armory on Ann Street, they moved to their own building in 1968 at Washington and First Street, which had been the Swisher Grocery. Funds raised through these sales support many other charitable organizations such as the Red Cross, the Ann Arbor Fire Department, the Public Library Bookmobile, the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum, and Dawn Farm. These sales moved to a larger building on Stabler Road in Scioto Township about 10 years ago. Their motto is, help us, help kids, families, and our community. And they have done so now for 100 years. Kudos to the Kiwanis Club. And now everyone who got an award, could you please stand for applause? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances, whether here or online, will have 3 minutes in which to speak. So please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining or when your time is expired. When your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Rita Mitchell. Yeah, she is.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, it was really hard to hear you. I think your mic wasn't on.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Hello, I'm Rita Mitchell. I live at 621 Fifth Street. I'm a volunteer appointee to the city's Environmental Commission, but I'm speaking for myself tonight. With respect to the 415 West Washington site, I asked for reversal of prior decisions to develop the site and an explanation to the public of how the proposal before you tonight proceeded without a public release of an RFP. The 415 West Washington site is in the Allen Creek floodplain and is the kind of area the city would buy in order to increase stormwater infiltration in the floodplain, especially during an era of climate emergency, with observed increased frequency and intensity of storm events. You have information from Jerry Hancock's February 2023 memo. I'm going to cite the following excerpts. 1, the concept plan to sell this city-owned parcel works at cross purposes to the city's floodplain mitigation efforts. 2, the city's hazard mitigation plans look for opportunities to purchase property, demolish structures, and lower the intensity of use of the floodplain. 3, residential structures in the flood fringe increase the responsibility and cost of city emergency services in responding to flood events, create risk of occupants being injured in the flood, and floodplain construction is more costly. 4, the current proposal to rezone, which was already done, the land from PL to PUD, sell the property development more intensely than the existing condition, and to facilitate a large residential structure is inconsistent with the established floodplain mitigation policies of the city. That's the end of my quotes. This proposed project will increase the intensity of development, as cited above. The hazard mitigation plans that we have are life-saving prevention plans. You don't see what you prevent. My second issue with this developer's proposed plan is a microgrid, about which I question the greenness. I ask that the city and the developer acknowledge openly that the methane to be used to create electricity from dairy manure contributes to greenhouse gas emissions equal to fossil-sourced methane. My concern is that the project will be providing a greenwash for the energy needed by the site and will support an increase in the number of factory farms in Michigan. Dairy manure methane collected from factory farms accounts for only 25% of the methane emissions from cows. Their manure and urine are collected in pools and placed in anaerobic biodigesters. The project does not account for the 75% of methane released into the air from cow burps and farts. Accounting for all of the dairy methane would show a total greenhouse gas release that's much greater than the volume of methane to be used by the proposed fuel cells. Installing a fuel cell device that relies on dairy methane is use of methane, the same as if it came from a fossil source. The approval of dairy waste methane will result in even more emissions and a downriver pollution of water from the source to Lake Erie. So I'm asking that you look into the electricity for this project, and it shouldn't get a pass as a green energy project when greenhouse gas is used to produce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peter Eckstein.
Hello. I will, I think, agree with the conclusions that Rita reaches without using any of her premises. Tonight's consent agenda includes an item to authorize the staff to work for 6 months to negotiate the sale of a city property to a developer who has donated more than $8,000 to PACs and campaigns that support many of you. Selling and developing a property this important and sensitive does not belong on the consent agenda, buried among 33 other items. It would give the inside track to buy and develop a city-owned property to a major donor without widely soliciting and comparing other bids. Remember the outpouring of public outrage in this room at the backroom deal that brought the Sports Illustrated monstrosity almost to fruition before a word of it had reached the public. Remember that several of you rightly said that the sale of the Klein lot should be on the basis of a request for proposal sent out to a wide range of developers. Today's proposed action would stimulate outcries of pay-to-play, suggestions that here in Ann Arbor, governmental decisions can be bought, in this case for $8,000. So I urge you to take this item off the consent agenda. But then don't just vote for it as a separate item. Instead, send it right back to staff and remind them that the proper procedure is an RFP seeking competitive proposals from a variety of potential developers. So far, not one of you who will vote today has had your name publicly associated with this bit of backdoor favoritism. Only by voting for it tonight would you allow it to cloud your reputations and the reputations of our city. Going forward, please insist on proper above-board and competitive procedures whenever the city is selling or buying properties with no inside track for favored campaign contributors. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ralph McGee.
Good evening, Ralph McKee, 5th Ward. To start out, thanks to Council Members Ackman and Dish and whoever else that I might have missed at the May 25th event at Liberty Plaza. There was a nice crowd. I had fun playing some music, and I ran the PA to hear many of the speakers who told some very good stories, both historical and personal. It was a fun event. Next, CA6. I saw in Elizabeth Nelson's newsletter that longtime city software vendor Granicus, who does STR data analysis for many cities, wanted to present their product but couldn't get their city staff contacts to respond. I'd request that you ask staff why. It seems common sense to compare products before buying. CA9, 415 Washington. This project process is flawed. First, some history. The original public input supported building affordable housing if possible, but staff rightly pointed out that we couldn't get Fed money because it's in the floodplain. In the surveys, the goal of selling the property to generate funds for affordable housing finished dead last, 11th. No matter, at the public engagement meeting and at the council meeting on pre-entitlement, staff represented that the primary community goal was to sell to generate affordable housing funds, which misrepresented the public input completely. Staff and council also said that the proposal made by a local developer, Joe Lambert, which was clearly different from staff's preferred option, shouldn't be considered before a competitive RFP process, and it would take too long to finalize it. So pre-entitlement was approved 6-5, despite stormwater management saying, then and now, nothing should be built there. This seems routine now. If staff says yes to market high-rises, you tout that. If it's say no, well, some other result. Fast forward to last year. Developer Heidi Posher got Southtown approved in September, despite some arguments raised future legal problems. A month later, she donated $5,000 to the mayor's PAC, along with some other donations to incumbents, and then city staff reached out and offered exclusive rights to negotiate Ray 415. The deal has a 6-month negotiation period, then a year-long due diligence period. So much for moving quickly in competitive process. Did we learn anything from the SI situation? Maybe not. Heidi's already telegraphed that she wants to pay $2.5 million, less than half the appraised value. I can see this play out. The due diligence outs will be for any reason. We will have burnt 18 months, and then Heidi can play hardball on the ultimate price. That's how these deals tend to work out. I know that because I used to do these kind of deals on both sides of it, and that due diligence period, if it's not very carefully written out, can be used to just walk and reduce the price at the tail end. And I just wanted to say one more thing. There is the optics that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tom Stolberg.
Mr. Stolberg is joining us on Zoom. Mr. Stolberg, phone number 534, go ahead. Mr. Stolberg, you can go ahead. Mr. Stolberg, we don't hear you.
I think that's the officer's radio.
I'm so hungry. I'm so sorry, your crunching is killing me. There's 10 more back.
Mayor, I'm understanding they can hear him on Zoom, but we can't hear him in the room.
All right, would Sitin let us know when he's completed his 3 minutes?
He's talking to CT and CT and
In light of our technical difficulties, I'm planning just moving forward. How does that sound? Mr. Stolberg, my apologies. We were unable to hear you for the balance, but it's our understanding that much of what you said, if not all of it, was able to go out on Zoom, so it will be preserved. Our next speaker is Holly Elliott.
Hi, my name's Holly Elliott, and I'm here to talk about the Miller Improvements Project. I live on Miller Avenue, right across from the lower playground of Mack's School. And I'm worried about the second phase of the improvements project, which is going to take place in 2025, which includes installing a two-lane bike lane divided from the cars with poles, and that narrows the car travel down to two 10-foot wide lanes. I'm worried because of the number of emergency vehicles that travel Miller every day. I live right there, I see them go past, and they go past quite fast with their sirens blaring, and they include fire trucks, police cars, and ambulances. In addition, Miller is also used by the city buses going both ways and stopping at various bus stops. Right now, buses and cars are able to pull over out of the way of the emergency vehicles because the bike lanes are on both sides and they're delineated just by paint stripes, okay? When the bike lanes are moved to one side of the street and blocked off by poles, cars will have nowhere to pull over. And I've been to community meetings on these improvements at the libraries, and I've talked to the engineers, including Trevor Braden, but I've never seen police or firefighters or ambulance drivers at those meetings, okay? I've met with quite a few police officers at various events, and including the new chief, Andre Anderson, and this is what they've told me. Police use Miller Avenue instead of Huron or Dexter because they can travel faster on Miller. There's fewer traffic lights and they can get to the west side much faster. And also Miller goes right up to M14 where it meets Maple. Several policemen have told me that the police department has had little input into the design of the Miller Avenue Improvements Project. I don't know if that's true, but think about it. In addition, I've talked in person to Mike Kennedy, the fire chief, and basically he said that they just have to deal with it. And I said, well, what would happen if there isn't room for cars to move over when you have a fire truck coming? He says the fire truck would just roll right over the poles. Do you want that? Think about it. It doesn't make sense to me. I haven't talked to anyone who drives ambulances, but as you know, Miller and Ann Streets go straight to the hospital. So I see a few of them racing in that direction with sirens alerting cars to pull over. Again, that won't be possible with only two 10-foot car lanes.
Thank you.
Okay. Listen to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alan Haber.
Hello, Council. Alan Haber here again. I was here your last meeting and invited you all to the Ann Arbor County party for the Bicentennial that was on the Library Lane lot. And we had a beautiful party. We had bands, we had singers, we had a great food truck. Mr. Mahoney really was a good food truck, and it did show that it worked. And we had wonderful conversations looking more toward this as the threshold of our third century, more than looking back to the wonders that we have come through, but also the need for improvements in the new agenda for land back and better relations with Native America and reparations and return and repair with Africa America and some more democracy in this town. It is a shame that somehow in the 5 years now and 6 months since the public passed that the center of the city should be developed as a central park and civic center, a commons, that the city has been at best slow motion. And the request for proposals, it was supposed to be a year ago, it now looks like maybe it's a year in the future. This is not right. This is, when the people vote, there should be a unanimity in the council to do the best you can to make that process move forward rather than ignore it. And the DDA that has some authority on that will not even let the public use a storage space that's on the alley, not available for the public. What kind of relation with the public is this that the city is establishing? Well, I do want to associate myself with the comments about 415 West Washington. That also requires a request for proposals to make a inside deal with some 4M company, whatever that is. Totally inappropriate. And the last thing I want to say is that you all know that there's been an intense concern in this city and at the university on the situation in Gaza and basically on the wars all over the world. But what's happening in Gaza is intolerable, and the city police and university police and the county police have all moved in and destroyed that encampment, destroyed the library, and there is nothing I have heard from the Independent Police Oversight Commission to see that the city police have had nothing to do with that. I rather believe they've had too much to do with it. There should be investigation. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Radina.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your proclamation declaring Pride Month in the city. As an out-elected official, I am grateful to live and work in a city that's so welcoming, inclusive, and affirming of our LGBTQ community. As Mayor Taylor mentioned, our city has played an integral role in the LGBTQ plus civil rights movement, in addition to decades of advocacy and progress led by my mentor, the late Jim Toy. Former council members Kathy Kazachenko, Nancy Wexler, and Jerry DeGreek are trailblazers in queer history, and more broadly, the history of our city and nation. Kathy's election, along with Nancy and Jerry publicly coming out while serving, helped pave the way for me and thousands of other LGBTQ elected officials in the last 50 years, including the at least 1,185 out LGBTQ elected officials currently serving in the United States today. They redefined what was possible for LGBTQ people seeking to run for office, and they demonstrated that LGBTQ leaders deserve a seat at the table. As a city, we haven't always done a good job of honoring this history, but this council has started to change that through some of our work and upcoming public markers. It is my hope that LGBTQ young people today will soon be able to come to City Hall and see themselves as integral to our community's success, as people who are valued, respected, and celebrated, and who can someday earn their own place in our history books. I also wanted to acknowledge for May 25th, I celebrated our city's bicentennial at a birthday celebration at the AFC Ann Arbor match, where they unveiled a special bicentennial tree canopy jersey and bicentennial scarves. I have one of those with me today, which has our bicentennial logo on it. And so those are a nice gift that we were received from the city, and I'll actually give it to Mr. Dehoney for him to display it here at the city. But they are also now donating 6 trees to the city for every goal scored throughout the bicentennial season. And finally, I'll say A20 week, because it is A20 week coming up, we have a Ward 3 party at Bicentennial Park on Sunday, June 9th from 4 to 5 p.m. At 2901 East Ellsworth Road, and that's formerly Southeast Area Park, for those who are not yet familiar with our new name. So we look forward to seeing you all there.
Councilmember Dish.
Following up directly on that, I would like to say that not only should everyone mark their calendars for A20 week, June 9th through 14th, but that you should be sure to join Councilmember Harrison and me at Leslie Science and Nature Center, which is, its official address is 1831 Traver Road, but I think we all know where it is. Tuesday, June 11th, for a Ward 1 party from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Games, raptors, and delicious treats from Veg, Michigan. So,
Councilmember Song.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to the Memorial Day Parade. It was really, it was a pleasure to introduce our community to our new chief. Our police and fire showed. I was acting mayor, hilariously, for a day. And I was really happy to see a number of Democratic candidates, a number of Democratic Party candidates march and get to know folks in the neighborhood. I was also honored to speak at Mackinac Policy Conference last week at the invitation of the Michigan State Housing Authority's director. I joined the panel along with Mayor Duggan, developer Glenn Wilson, and it was moderated by Senator Sarah Anthony. I was really proud to speak to our work at Dunbar Towers as a project of our work in supporting dense development and as a response to both the housing crisis and to our environmental commitments. So be assured my conference expenses were not covered by the city, so my commitment to donate my salary remains. And I did not receive any of the much touted but non-existent sweet development dollars when I spoke to the Southtown development, which will triple density. You'll be proud to know that Ann Arbor's work towards increasing housing supply was seen as a model by the state, by Mayor Duggan, and other communities as they consider upzoning and welcoming neighbors, including refugees, immigrants, young families, and future generations. So good job, Ann Arbor.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Ann Arbor African American Festival on Saturday, a tradition I look forward to every year. I just want to thank Tisha Montague and everyone involved for continuing Lucille Porter's incredible legacy. I'm also excited to share that I attended the inaugural Ann Arbor Black Film Festival, celebrating Black creativity and storytelling. Thank you.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly following up on A20 Week, the Ward 4 A20 party is going to be held at Almendinger Park on June 12th. That's next Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. I will be there. Unfortunately, I think Councilmember Ekman cannot be there, but I will be there along with city staff, and we will hope to see as many Ward 4 residents coming out as we can. Details can be found on the city site, of course, and there's an event on my Facebook page, my Jen Eyre Facebook page as well. Thanks.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Cornell.
I'm going to join the train here and talk about I'm very excited actually to talk about A20 Week and the events that are going on around town. On the 12th is the Ward 5 party at West Park from 6 to 7 p.m. I've been promised that it will be a good time, so I hope that folks will show up for that. And I just want to share, I think, a bit of a reminder that when you're on maybe the other side of the dais, that we're still people. We're moms, we're wives, we're friends, we're daughters, we're humans. And I think my daughter going to the farmer's market on Saturday and coming home and asking me what a bribe is and who do I take money from as I sit here. When 99% of what I do is worry about people who want an extra compost bin or a better crosswalk by their school, or want to understand how they can install new windows in their house and what that permitting process looks like, this job is thankless and boring. And so the idea that we are somehow acting in a way that is untoward is to have a kid come home and ask why that happened to them and why did they sit there and why did their stepdad let somebody say these things about them, about me, is hard. If you want to debate topics and have conversations around substance, you can do that without a character assassination, and I think that you can do it without suggesting that I'm worried about buying my kid a new bike, and if I had developer money, my garage wouldn't look like crap, my house would be painted and be beautiful, and I wouldn't be worried about the bike for my kid. So a little bit of civility goes a long way, and I think that when you sit in this seat, you realize that the national rhetoric really does trickle down in a way locally that impacts people who have kids and who are wives and who are friends. And we're just normal people sitting here trying to do the very best that we can for the city of Ann Arbor. And the idea that in some way we're doing something because we personally benefit from it is not at all reflective of the amount of time we put in, I think, and I want to speak for my colleagues here, to be thoughtful in the emails, the calls, the mail. I check my mailbox here, we all do, that we receive and the thoughtfulness that we put into hearing from all constituents and doing the very best job that we can. And so if you want to debate the ideas, that's great, but if you want to say that we take bribes, show the receipts, or please, please don't go out and say that in public. It's not the right way to behave, and I think if a 12-year-old knows it, adults should. Thank you.
Further communication from council. I would like to thank everyone who turned out to celebrate and who affected the celebration, most importantly, staff and the coordinating committee to the Bicentennial. Regrettably, I was out of town on a family matter, but my understanding is that the event was, over the course of the weekend, was well attended, and you know, pleasing and inspirational, as has been observed. We have lots to be proud of, lots to reflect upon, lots to improve with respect to our past, but also we have a lot of opportunity for the future. It's the future that this council and this community focus most aggressively on, but as we do so, it's important to sit back too and reflect upon how we got here and the work of those who came before us. We have before us the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Dish. I think that's right next.
Sorry. I'd like to pull C9 for discussion. And was there? No. And I would just like to say about consent agenda item 31, the really launching of our residential rebate program for energy efficiency improvements. I'd like to say how excited I am to see that. We are set up to disperse over $4 million in the next 2 fiscal years. OSI is set up to do that. And half of that money is reserved for households whose incomes max out at 120% of the area median income, and the other half's open to everyone. So if people want an energy consult, if you are thinking about purchasing batteries for your solar panels, if you are interested in exploring geothermal, this money can help you do that. And it will be coordinated with the federal money, which, however, is not likely to come into the pipeline for another year. So we're jumping ahead of that to get these resources into the community now so that we can meet our carbon neutrality goals.
Further discussion on the consent agenda. Councilmember Song.
I don't want to pull this, but I do want to note CA3, the resolution to allocate funding to the new Human Services Partnership. This $350,000 will make a difference in our community, where at the last SOS community services, a state of homelessness and hunger, we had a report of over 100 families who are currently homeless and sleeping in parking garages throughout the county. So this is the funding that would help them address that immediate need. And again, I feel like this is a broken record, but we're the only municipality within the county that contributes general funds towards this effort. And SOS Community Services is looking for matching HUD funding. So should everyone feel compelled to give at the table and in the audience, this is the time to do it. Thanks.
Councilmember Ackman.
I'd like to pull CA 13 for discussion. And also just wanted to comment quickly on CA 12 to thank staff. This is a resolution to remove parking on one side of Page Avenue. Sidewalks are being constructed on the street, which has been asked for by the neighborhood for a really long time. And there's also some serious speeding concerns on this corridor. So I know that the engineering staff worked very carefully, including with fire, to see what they could do to slow traffic. And one of those measures is just removing parking on one side of the street. I saw a very frightening video from someone's Ring camera today along that corridor, and it looked like someone was basically drag racing down the road. So I hope that all the things that we're doing here and that our neighborhood traffic measures as we're reconstructing roads, we just need people to slow down in our neighborhoods. Thanks.
Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make note of CA7, which is the resolution to add the parks millage renewal to the November ballot. We are going to have a very long ballot this fall, so I encourage everybody to take advantage of the many opportunities that our clerk's office will have for you to vote early. But I hope that as you go to the question section of the ballot, that you'll continue to support parks as the community has in the past. So this will be a 20-year millage. It is a renewal, not an increase. And this item will also reaffirm our initial intent from way back in 2011 to administer the millage in the same way. And so I hope the community will continue to demonstrate its support for our parks. Thank you.
Further discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Cornell.
I just wanted to comment really briefly on CA 27, which is the reauthorization of the BIZ, the Main Street Area Business Improvement Zone. For those of you who don't know, the businesses who are downtown within the BIZ district do voluntarily contribute funds for things that are quality of life and quality of place initiatives. So making sure that there's flowers in the flower beds and that those planter boxes are spray washed every year. And it's really the little things that make our downtown a lot more livable and a lot more attractive to people who work here, want to come here, want to enjoy our downtown. I'm really thrilled that they want to extend their commitment, and I think that this just shows that the businesses that are downtown are very interested in making this place as welcoming as we all are, and that's pretty exciting. So it's a pretty simple and benign looking agenda item, but it actually speaks to a commitment that I think is terrific.
Further discussion? I'd like to, first off, uplift, following on Councilmember Dish, CA 31. There's a lot to be excited about on this consent agenda, but I do also want to emphasize the work that we're doing with OSI to layer and weave city rebates into the work that's already, the groundwork that's already been laid by the Biden-Harris Inflation Reduction Act. As we all know, the administration's Inflation Reduction Act is a transformational climate action measure, which has enabled the city as a municipal organization to purchase millions of dollars worth of solar panels that would never have been possible otherwise. It's done the same for countless residents throughout our country, giving them additional tax breaks when they purchase renewable energy-related equipment. And we at the city are going to be layering our own rebate program over the Inflation Reduction Act benefits. This is a direct result of the commitment by the people of the city of Ann Arbor through action in the Community Climate Action Millage to fund our A20 plan, to give our outstanding staff at OSI the ability to innovate and come up with plans and projects and programs that are going to help Ann Arbor residents accomplish the community's A20 goals, and this is just another outstanding instance of it, and I couldn't be more proud. I'd also be grateful if someone would pull, or perhaps I can just do that since I'm talking, CA 30. We'll just pretend I can do it. Further discussion of the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda with the exception of CA 9, 13, and 30, please say aye. Opposed? The consent agenda with the exception of CA 9, 13, and 30 is approved with 9 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement with respect to CA 3, CA 5, CA 6, CA 7, did I say 2? And CA2, thank you. CA24, CA28, CA32, CA34. I think that's it. CA9, resolution to approve entering into a 6-month negotiating period for the possible sale of the 415 West Washington site, moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, of CA9. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear to anyone who may have heard an earlier speaker that by approving this consent agenda item, we are not approving the sale of this parcel. We are approving a negotiating period followed by a due diligence period, and the proposed timeline for this negotiating period and due diligence period is likely not longer than an RFP process would be. It, in fact, could be quite a bit shorter. 415 West Washington has a long history of RFPs going out and nothing coming of it. So I think that council has been engaged working with staff in a very well-constructed by staff engagement process and then pre-entitlement process to really get this thing going. It is prime real estate. It could be wonderful housing. It wants to protect a chimney swift habitat. It wants to provide paved pathway, a non-motorized pathway. We want all of these things. We built all that into the PUD. We asked for even a little bit more, so I guess both the Moon and Mars, because we asked for the cleanup, the affordable housing contribution or units, and we asked for, I think we said, net zero ready. We have a letter from a developer who is interested in giving us units on site, affordable units on site, and then, I mean, really the whole project would be, there would be at least 15 or 15%, units at 60% area median income, and then the rest of the project aims to come in under 120 area median income. So it's affordable housing and what is sometimes called workforce housing, but that doesn't quite have a definition. So we should be careful about that. That's more than we asked for. The sustainability features of this project and the innovations of this project, the mass timber that will probably be used here as it is being used in Southtown, this will not be net zero ready. This will be a carbon neutral project with respect to scope 1 and 2 emissions, which is consistent with our A20 plan. This is also what is projected in the letter, because again, we are not at the end of the process, we are at the beginning of one. What is projected in the letter would be a path-breaking project, a model for others. And so that is why we are interested in this project. It follows our PUD and it goes further because we were afraid to demand, we demanded a lot anyway, and we were afraid to demand still more because, again, the long history of nothing happening on this project.
Councilmember?
Yes, I'm done.
Further discussion. Councilmember Cornell.
As somebody who walks through this site almost every single day, I'm really excited about CA9. I think, as usual, Councilmember Dish did a wonderful job of explaining a lot of the benefits of the project, but I think one of the things that I wanted to call out was that this site has been evaluated for years with a lot of public input regarding, I guess, I don't want to say daylighting, but really evaluating the concerns and the stumbling blocks, the real significant money sucks that come with developing a site that is contaminated, that we know that is polluted, that is in our community, that I happen to walk through every day and ask environmental experts, should I not walk through that site every day? The idea that we could get something on this site, a development on the site that meets so many of the things that were identified in the public engagement process around affordable housing, green building, things that helped us to advance our transportation and our environmental goals. The idea that we would not, after it sitting idle for so long without any interest, anybody wanting to come forward with a proposal, for us to allow a developer to evaluate what that might look like and honor the fact that the time and the money investment that they'd be putting into it would yield incredible results in the end to the city and advance our community's values, I think can't be understated. For my part, I think, when we talk about, especially when we hear things around we're tired of it feeling concrete and whatnot. The idea that this is a developer who is very interested in evaluating sustainability initiatives and to doing mass timber on this site and working through all of the incredible hoops that have to go through for a brownfield or any sort of support to clear up what needs to happen in order for this to become a site that can be built on is not an insurmountable task. And so the idea that this is somehow us giving a gift to a developer that actually has to go through a lot of work and invest a lot to come to us with a proposal that could still be shot down, again, can't be understated. So I'm excited to approve this. I'm excited to see what we might be able to realize from a site that right now is blight and is something that when you walk through it is not reflective of what we would want in one of our communities that is walkable, bikeable, and right across the street from the YMCA.
Councilor Ryer.
Okay. Thank you. This
first of all, sounds like an amazing project. And it's truly chock full of positive, just beyond positive things for this site, as Councilmember Cornell said, taking a blighted site and turning it into a carbon neutral or better project with affordable housing, with preserving the things we want to preserve, with, just benefit after benefit after benefit. And in addition, we have local developers here who are just really doing great work in the community. I'm just briefly going to touch on the allegations and insinuations that are made. It's just so unwarranted. $8,000, really. Have you seen the work that they're doing to bring new housing where it's needed? With the options for transit. I'm really impressed with the team. I don't think there's anything untoward about this process, but I will say I am really frustrated that we're here again with another situation that could have easily been avoided had we just worked with, had staff frankly worked to just put together an RFP that outlines what's being proposed. It's not hard to do. It's, the state government does it all the time when projects are brought forth, just to make sure that the process, that there is no appearance of impropriety in the process. And, we went through this with the Klein lot. I was pretty firm in my opinions on that. My opinions have not changed. We need to have a process for these types of things. And so the fact that something is being brought forward with no change to the process, not even the ability to, enter these negotiations, but let it be known that we welcome others to bring forth their best proposal as well. It just colors it leaves a mark that doesn't need to be there. And so, I will say again, and I know I was on the losing end of this argument before, and so that's fine, and maybe that's why we're seeing the same thing come forward again. But I'm going to continue to insist upon a process for these situations. It doesn't mean I don't support this project. I absolutely think it's amazing. And we should be so lucky every community should be so lucky to have developers like 4M in their community. But for that reason, I will have to vote no.
Councilmember Rodino.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo quite a bit of what Councilmember Iyer just said. I think this is a really exciting proposal that's come to us. I think there's a lot to really admire about this, and I think it is truly aspirational for what we hope could be at the site, but similarly, I am a bit frustrated that we are back to the table with another unsolicited proposal and still no process for how to deal with that as a city. We had this conversation, as Councilmember Iyer mentioned, and while I think there's a lot of really good stuff in this proposal, I'm not going to be able to support it without an RFP process either. I stated all of my reasons when we had this conversation last time. I think, unfortunately, while I agree, I don't think that there's anything untoward here, and I really wish that some of the wild conspiracy theories about bribery and payoffs would end, because, frankly, there's just no there. Although I do know there are political reasons for that argument being made right now. But frankly, when we don't have a process for receiving these proposals, it empowers those kind of arguments to gain traction. And so I will also be voting no on this, although I think there is so much good and wonderful stuff in the proposal itself.
Councilmember Ackman.
I was hoping I could ask a question to planning staff or to Mr. Delacourt.
Absolutely.
I was hoping you could clarify for us what it means for the project to be pre-entitled. So my understanding is it's pre-entitled based on the PUD that we passed, I think, in April. Could you kind of speak to how that frames this, what would be a 6-month negotiating conversation with the developer if this goes through?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I think a lot of the reason we're here today, and I want to be clear, is I as much sought this out from the developer as they offered it because of some of the uniqueness to it, some of what they're proposing as far as the sustainability components, the microgrid, the behind the meter thing is so far flung and unusual compared to anything we've seen in the past that when we saw an opportunity to partner with someone like this, it was actually, I will tell you, it was me who pursued it. It wasn't them who submitted a proposal. It was actually me who went after it under those considerations. As far as the entitlement, driving that process is unlike a lot of projects. This one is actually already pre-approved for a certain development. The city has sunk almost $250,000 into it at this point, identifying exactly what it wants and the parameters by which it wants it on that site. That is unusual in that I think only one other site have we done that with, and that's on 350. What struck me through that entire process and the entitlement process was a desire both expressed by the community, the Planning Commission, and City Council throughout it to partner with a local development group to have it be more than the sum parts of the PUD, and that was a carbon neutral building, and to try to find a way to partner with someone who could provide a carbon neutral building, not just an all electric building, but something that actually meets the definition of carbon neutral. The group had pursued that process through working with OSI in an attempt to design a building or a energy structure, a microgrid that meant it. And I couldn't for the life of you tell you the technical parts of it, but it was through that entitlement process that started it, and the city actually being a component of the development team already. We had already entitled the process. We had put $250,000 into it. We have pre-approved or put together the brownfield plan for it already, the remediation plan. These are all things that you would normally seek out from a development party. We've already done. So we felt in this instance, because of the uniqueness of the site, because of the uniqueness of when it went into it, and because truthfully, if I were to take this idea of this microgrid and then put it in an RFP, it felt a little untawdry in and of itself in that it is their idea that they've come to us with on another project, and one I thought was worth pursuing. So that's kind of how the PUD frames how we ended up here.
The entitlement sets the floor of what must happen that's already been defined by community engagement and by
Correct.
being passed from council.
Yeah, we went through the process with the other 10 city sites driven by the Housing Commission. This was one that was identified as an extraordinarily low priority or possibility for affordable housing in the traditional means through LIHTC or other tax credit supported processes. Once this site kind of fell down to the bottom of that, it's one staff picked up and pursued, knowing the history of it, knowing that it's been sitting there a long time, knowing the fact that it's functionally obsolete and blighted, and then pursued the entitlement process, kind of driven by the community engagement process that said we want to entitle this, what the term we use is entitle it, but come up with a development plan for it before inviting a developer in to the process. And that was kind of the key takeaways we took from that process.
Councilor Dish.
I want to thank Councilmember Appin for that question and you for your response, Mr. Delacourt. And, you know, I completely respect the concerns that are being voiced and the desire to see an RFP. But I don't understand the sentiment of here we are again, because the 415 West Washington project is extremely unusual. I don't know. I don't think we do this very often, to hire a consultant to do a year's worth of engagement with the community. That was not something that was done with the Klein's lot. We didn't have the community say, this is what we want. Not just this is what we want on here, this is the kind of thing, but this is the kind of thing, and this is also the how. It has to be mostly residential. You know, we either want, 15 units or 15% units to be affordable, or we want a payment in lieu of that. I mean, there is so much detail in the PUD that I think it's already difficult to find somebody who's willing to do it. And we have someone who you sought out and is also here and knows the community well, who said, no, we'll do that, and actually we'll do you one better. And so I do not feel that we are operating I feel that we are operating with a lot of contextual information about what the community wants, and that's what the PUD zoning was developed out of. And so I think the comparison is not fully accurate.
Councilmember Song.
Mr. Delacour, given how unique the site is and our reputation in Ann Arbor and how we do development within potentially a lifetime on public parcels, do you think there are a number of developers that we're overlooking?
Well, I can tell you I've had conversations with a number of local developers about would they be willing to provide the similar type of package. To date, the responses have been no. That doesn't mean someone won't respond to an RFP. I mean, I've only made this recommendation in 25 years of doing this twice, to do it this way. The set of circumstances surrounding this site came to the conclusion that I thought this was a worthy conversation and deserving to be had in front of council. Both arguments are valid. The RFP process is very valid, and this is certainly a valid process as well. We thought it was one because of how unique it was that it was worthy of conversation. I have had conversations with a lot of folks about their ability to provide carbon neutral buildings, not just all electric buildings, but this idea of a behind the meter microgrid that could produce power in and of itself, potentially for this site and potentially at some point for others. That is not something anybody we have dealt with on any of our development projects in the city has come close to offering at this point. When we combine that with the willingness to offer the 60% AMI in the building and not the payment in lieu, and then the potential to do, and everybody knows my love for the term, but workforce housing for the balance of the site, not only say they would give it, but agree to the fact that we would want to do the income verification or have reports submitted and certified, that there was an actual willingness to partner in that process. That's why we ended up here. Sorry, I think I keep answering more than you're asking, Councilmember.
I mean, I ask that because every developer I've met in the past couple of years, the number one issue they've talked about is how do you build capital stacks?
Yes.
In an environment with increased interest rates.
Yep.
In a political environment where we don't know what will happen in November. We don't know where LIHTC will end.
Correct.
We don't know where incentives or housing will be a priority. The governor announced substantial investments in housing, but it's not enough. And from the conversation I've had with Glenn Wilson at Community First in Flint, Sonia Mays in Detroit Development, other large to very small development folks who work with CDFIs. They've tried every which way to finance projects, but it's a time crunch. Yep. It's not an identity or a personality or conspiracy. It's financing when it's available, how to build those capital stacks, how to take advantage of an opportunity when it presents itself. And the opportunity is here. It's this year because we have so many other parcels to develop. And no one is benefiting from that except, no one at the table is benefiting from it personally, and surely you are not directly, personally, Mr. Delacour.
Yeah.
But since this
to say working on this project has benefited me in some way would be
Councilmember?
exactly
Right.
accurate.
So it's for the public good. It's a public
I mean,
parcel.
it's been there a long time. I mean, that was what was struck me as part of it, is it sat there for a very long time without a solution. And it also seemed like an opportunity for the city to get in a project all of the things it's trying to get piecemeal in different projects. The fact that the city owned it, that the land values are able to be manipulated, that there would be TIF starting at a zero baseline. All those things you've talked about as far as capital stacking, this project offers those opportunities. So partnering with the right development team to get those additional things seemed worthy of the discussion. This has everything. I mean, every board and commission, every approval. I mean, I have rarely seen a site that is so complicated to put together.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thanks. I just want to reiterate that there isn't a right or wrong here, in my opinion. It's a philosophical difference of how to approach it. But I do want to clarify a couple of things. One, I think references have been made to RFP processes in the past. Every project is different, and putting out an RFP where there is no known developer can result in nothing happening versus putting out an RFP that codifies what is being discussed with a developer and then just giving the opportunity to the wider marketplace to weigh in should they want to. That's what I'm talking about here. And it's easy to do. It can be done under a short time frame. And I will continue to advocate that we do that as part of our process.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cornell.
Can't believe I might be the one to come full circle here, but I think for my part, I'll just reiterate that this has gone through a long public engagement process. What we would like to see as a community from this property have been clearly defined with a lot of public engagement. And I think that throughout that process, our community's values were expressed. And I think that we have before us a question of whether or not we want to allow some time for a developer to come to us with a proposal, with the understanding that proposals take time and money. And as we've talked about, several of us around this table, it is a significant investment, but I think that this is an investment with the end goal of giving the community what it has expressed clearly that it wants in this site. And so unlike a parking lot where somebody might want to build something, yes, it is a parking lot and it's not an attractive one. Not that any of them are, but that this one is particularly not attractive, not only to the community, but to developers for all of the reasons that have been identified. The idea that we would not allow a proposal to come forward, which is the question in front of us right now, just feels strange to me. So I want to commend city staff and the time that has gone into this, and the community who has voiced their opinions over the course of several different opportunities to do so, all the way back to 2019. If that doesn't give you pause to realize that this is a site that has incredible potential and the community has weighed in on what it would like there, and we have somebody who wants to propose to us what it might look like, we can always reject the proposal that comes forward. So I'm enthusiastically supporting this project for Ward 5.
Councilor Ackman.
Yeah, I'll also be supporting this tonight. I guess I just want to say that I believe when we considered the PUD so many months ago, I spoke to the fact of looking at this blighted site for the last 20 years. And I just am so, and I know that when we did the PUD, there were discussions about, well, we have the PUD, are we actually going to have a successful project? Because doing that was one step, and then actually doing something different with the site. And I just don't want to see the status quo anymore. I don't want to see it sitting there anymore, derelict and blighted. And I think that this is compelling enough to entertain it for the 6 months period, and I'm excited to see what comes forward.
Further discussion? For my part, I'm very excited to support the proposal today. We have a site that has been subject of extensive city process since before I was elected to city council. Back in 2008, there were developers who were engaging how this site might be accomplished. It was a long time coming, and this site obviously is incredibly complicated. What we have here today is a local developer who has demonstrated commitment to doing good work in the city, doing work that provides affordability, doing work that accomplishes and engages our 820 goals. We are getting exactly what we asked for. We have a proposal to have a conversation about a carbon negative building, about affordable and workforce housing, about full site remediation, construction of the tree line trail, preservation of the chimney swift habitat, and so forth, and in partnership with the Historic District Commission. This is exactly what we are looking for. This is exactly what the long-term, long-standing public process has resulted in with the codification and the PUD. And for my part, I am incredibly willing and excited to take maybe for an answer here. This is a conversation that is beginning. We are seeing whether this successful community-minded community partner can put together a proposal that works, and I am eager to see what's next. I'm grateful for the work that staff has done to get us here, that the 4M in this context has done in their vision for trying to cut the Gordian knot of a project that has been a blight for decades. Further discussion. Councilmember Rodina.
Sorry, I do have one more question. If an RFP for something like this were to go out, what would be about the timeline that would take from beginning to end?
To select and get in front of you for selection, probably 3 to 6 months, depending on how complicated it is.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That was my question, I think largely because I agree with everything that I've heard from my colleagues who will be supporting this tonight about all of the positives that are before us, and I think I'm also optimistic. It looks like this is going to move forward, and optimistic that hopefully we'll get a proposal back that we can support. But for my part, I'm going to continue to support a different process for this. I think in that same amount of time period, that same 6 months, we could be putting together a request for proposals that asks for exactly all of those things that are being proposed tonight. It's very well possible that 4M may be the only bidder to submit a proposal back, but then it also allows for a competitive process to take place over that same time period. And so, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to support this tonight, but I do want to thank the developer for coming forward with a really innovative a proposal for this site, because I agree. I think anything is better than the status quo. I unfortunately can't support this process.
Further discussion. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Cornell.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson, absent. Councilmember Rodina?
No.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
No.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs, absent. Resolution carries.
CA 13, resolution to approve a right-of-way license agreement with Phoenix USH LLC for the operation of dockless electricity micromobility devices in the city of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Ackman, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of CA 13. Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you. So I would like to move to amend the motion with a substitute resolution and right-of-way contract that I submitted to Ms. Beaudry earlier today.
Has that been circulated? That's all right. Oh, is there a thing?
What? Okay.
Has that been circulated? Is that in the packet?
No.
All right.
Mayor, I'll send that around now.
So I can just talk through what it is. There is a red line version being circulated, or would you prefer me to wait?
I'm sorry. While perhaps there'll be a second in advance of it's being seconded by Councilmember Song. Councilmember Ackman, you still have the floor as it is being circulated on the amendment.
Great. So the original resolution, so basically our contract with SPIN is coming to its natural end contract period in July. And so the original agenda item is to renew the contract, and it's basically unchanged. And after talking with Councilmember Briggs, we would like to have some time to consider additional kind of safety measures. And so the difference between what is being circulated and what was originally in the packet is that it shortens the agreement to 3 months instead of a year, with 3 additional quarterly periods that can be renewed at the city administrator's discretion. And basically, this gives us time to work with staff on bringing something forward that considers some additional safety requirements.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cornell, on the amendment.
Correct.
Okay. I would like to offer some input when it comes time for what we're actually asking for from SPIN or whatever they're called now. But I just wanted to say that I've heard a lot about abandoned scooters. I've talked to Mr. Mahoney about it, and I am supportive of the amendment.
Further discussion of the amendment? All in favor? Opposed? Amendment's approved. Further discussion of the main motion as amended. Councilmember Ackman.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out a few things. These devices are getting a lot of use in our community, and they're really important to our mobility goals. I had submitted some questions ahead of time. We got answers back that talk about the usage rates, as well as some of the crash rates. So we don't want to operate without a license, and I think that it is our wish to move forward with having the scooters and the e-bikes. But there are some, concerns that I have. And if you look at the crash reports, one of the key things is that we've had two serious crashes and one fatality. And I'm a little bit troubled by the fact that the city's numbers are so much different from SPIN's numbers, meaning that the city's records are complete. And as far as SPIN is concerned, in the whole period that they have operated with us, there have been no serious crashes whatsoever with their devices. And it seems like we should rectify that. In addition, there were some issues brought up, or actually some points brought up at the Transportation Commission meeting where they had a representative. I believe it was at their last meeting. I watched the recording, and they talked about some sobriety tests that they have in some other cities. So I think that there are actually measures that they've deployed in other cities that we could potentially deploy here. So I just want the chance to be able to talk with staff about some reasonable changes to this.
Councilmember Cornell.
I just want to add to Councilmember Ackman's comments that we have a lot of usage data that staff has provided. For my part, I've heard a lot from constituents around our abandoned scooter protocols, which we do have. When e-scooters were introduced, for those who don't know, in September of 2018, there was a new category added to A2 Fix-It labeled abandoned scooters. By choosing that option, residents can inform the city when scooters were not parked correctly, and it's roughly around 40 per year, but that does require corrective action, and sometimes it is left to community standards to address those complaints due to SPIN not addressing them. So as part of this analysis and sort of next steps, what we do with this contract, I would love to understand what the city's time commitment and involvement with correcting when scooters are just left for days at a time. What does that look like? To be clear, I'm hugely supportive of different ways to get around town, obviously. But if SPIN has a local staff that's managing their fleet of vehicles, they should be able to address concerns in a timely manner. And if not, what is that actually costing the city? And how does that take away from some of our priorities? I'll make fun of myself, but we hear a lot about how the leaf blower ordinance will never be enforced because who's going to show up for it? And if our problem is enforcement and community standards not being able to respond, I'd like to know how scooters left on the sidewalk actually impact that and what our commitment is.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The main motion as amended is approved. CA 30, resolution to approve a retainer agreement with Whites and Luxembourg PC and the Sam Bernstein Law Firm for legal services in support of city's participation of the insulin pricing multi-district litigation. Moved by Councilmember Radina, second by Councilmember Song. Discussion, please, of CA 30. As folks know, we do have a practice and an obligation on the council to vote on all matters. However, that obligation does not extend to matters in which a member of council has a financial interest. In this context, it has been interpreted that that legal representation of one of the direct legal representation of one of the participants in a contract does constitute such a financial interest, and I do represent on occasion the Sam Bernstein Law Firm, and so would request council's acquiescence to stand down from this vote. Moved by Councilmember Medina, second by Councilmember Song. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? I am no longer here. Councilmember Medina, it's all you.
All right, do we have any further discussion of CA 30? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Mr. Mayor, you are welcome back.
We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, you need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the specific item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is expired. When your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, an ordinance to amend the zoning map being part of section 5.10.2 of chapter 55 of title 5 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor of 1.3 acres from C1AR campus business residential to PUD planned unit development agreement. 732 Packard PUD zoning and supplemental regulations. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Adam Juskevich, do you have a comment?
Hi, this is Adam Juskevich calling from the 4th Ward. I would like to support staff's recommendation that this rezoning, site plan, and development agreement be approved. For all the reasons outlined in the staff report, including the additional housing and density in a walkable area close to student destinations, affordable housing, A20 sustainability standards, park improvements, and more, this project meets our standards and will provide significant benefits to the city and to the neighborhood. We are in a housing crisis and in a climate crisis, and adding a significant number of housing units in an area where most of the residents will have no need to drive a car will go a long way toward addressing both of these. We are also in a traffic violence crisis, and eliminating curb cuts will significantly improve pedestrian and cyclist safety along 2 major corridors. I hope that you pass this tonight, and I look forward to seeing it built. I'd also like to mention that the Domino's, which the landlord of seems to keep complaining about this, they're going to sell a hell of a lot more pizza. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers on the line with their hands raised.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, an ordinance to amend section 460 and 461 of chapter 49, sidewalks of title 4, streets and sidewalks of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see any callers online with their hands up.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 3, resolution to approve 732 Packard 5 Corners PUD site plan and development agreement. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Andy Sugarman, Colin McKinney, and Phil Brick on behalf of our client, who is the owner of 716 Packard. I spoke at the last meeting. We again rise to ask the Council to give pause to this project. it was clear from the last time we spoke that there has been no consideration made of the impact of this building on the adjoining property, that of our client, in the fact that it's a 14-story building built within feet of that building and directly going around that building on both sides. We are not opposed to a development there. We are not opposed to a development of the scope and size which is proposed. What we do oppose is the fact that there has not been consideration of the detrimental effect of this proposed building on the adjoining property, which is what's required under the law, under the code, and by the Planning Commission. I thought it was extremely telling that in relation to the Church Street development at the last meeting, Ms. DeLeo, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her name, was asked by a council person as to that project whether a shade study was conducted as part of the development process. Ms. DeLeo's answer is as quote, "I do believe that some shade materials were provided as part of the initial application. But because we do not, and they were reviewed and looked at, but we do not have a standard as to review them. There, it is not a standard of approval, nor do we have any type of measurement that indicates how much shade is too much shade or too little." Ms. DeLeo's answer to that question is extremely insightful as to a flaw in the Planning Commission's work. The Planning Commission is not considering the impact of shade or the absence of blocking of light onto an adjoining property. That is a fundamental right in land use. It dates, I provided a letter to this council, it dates to the U.S. Supreme Court 1926 about a larger building monopolizing the rays of the sun. Ms. DeLeo was then asked, as it pertains to this matter, whether there was any studies done to cast more light, no pun intended, on what the issue was with the shade, what was reviewed by the Planning Commission. Her answer to that question was, Council, similar to the other PUD tonight, we did not do a detailed written write-up for every single parcel in any type of vicinity. Rather, our analysis is, what are the impact and what are the uses? Are they compatible? What is the surrounding character of the property? So we feel that we have done an analysis and have concluded that it meets the standards of approval for the zoning district, but we have nothing further. There's no specific separate report. The Planning Commission has not done its job. It is incumbent upon this council to pause this matter and send it back to the Planning Commission. This can be worked out outside of litigation. Litigation is not our chosen forum. Please don't force us into that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Alex Lowe, do you have a comment? Alex Lowe? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Alex Lowe calling in from southeast East Ann Arbor. Sounds to me like the property owner of the adjacent parcel here has said that they missed out on the windfall they could have had when this developer offered to purchase their site, and they decided that they didn't offer enough money. I am kind of disappointed that this PUD is only 14 floors. It seems a bit low. Really would be nice if this were 20, 25 floors, and honestly there are far too many parking spaces here. But, you know, if those are the biggest concerns, then so be it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers online with their hands up.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of May 20, 2024. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? The minutes are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend the zoning map being part of Section 5.10.2 of Chapter 55 of Title 5, the Code of the City of Ann Arbor, of 1.3 acres from C1AR, Campus Business Residential, to PUD, Planned Unit Development, 4732 Packard PUD zoning and supplemental regulations. Moved by Councilmember Dish, second by Councilmember Udina. Discussion, please, of B1. I believe we have a staff introduction.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and community. I'm Brett Leonard. I'm the planning manager. I received a council question that I will read and respond to. I do have a page and a half, but I assure you it's a very large font. The question we received an additional letter on Friday afternoon from an attorney representing the owner of 716 Packard, who is claiming that the city is required to investigate and study the effect of the proposed 732 Packard PUD rezoning on this neighboring property. Can staff comment on both how planning staff and the planning commission made the recommendation that the PUD rezoning was consistent with PUD standards, and whether it was necessary for the city to do a specific study of the effect of shade, wind, or water runoff on the neighboring property? City staff and the Planning Commission considered this proposed PUD against 8 standards established in the city code. In both the staff report and the City Planning Commission evaluation, the standards are found to be met. A summary of some of those standards: the proposed district requires LEED certification, integrated renewable solar energy, electric vehicle parking infrastructure beyond the minimum required, limitations to natural gas use to specific components of the building, and adds new housing typology in this area of the city, advancing affordable housing, and improves the adjacent public park. LEED, solar, natural gas limitations, and improvements to public parks are not requirements of the city code that would be achieved under other zoning classifications. There's no change in use that would have a detrimental impact on public utilities or surrounding properties as determined by city engineering staff review of water and sewer capacity. With the minor addition of temporary outdoor activities to the PUD, the uses permitted are otherwise identical to those allowed currently on the property in the underlying zoning district and the surrounding properties. As you are aware, there are numerous comprehensive plan goals to promote less reliance on the automobile, locating higher density residential in proximity to activity centers such as the University of Michigan, supporting mixed-use centers in existing commercial areas designed to provide new residential opportunities, promote reduced energy consumption, and to increase the use of renewable energy. The proposed project before you advances these plans and policies. The required affordable housing standard in the PUD ordinance is exceeded by the proposed project as required by standards. The supplemental regulations provide findings and regulations that identify and achieve the proposed benefits as indicated in the staff report. The project achieves improved vehicular and pedestrian transportation improvements to the area, including bicycle infrastructure to support both cargo bikes and e-bikes. And by review of staff, the loss of natural features, in this case 2 landmark trees, is reasonable, and the loss of trees will be mitigated as specified by city code. The city has not adopted any physical development standards regarding shade or wind impacts in any zoning district, and the city's PUD standards do not require such specific analysis to be completed, nor has this typically been done a component to other PUD zoning reviews. The uses of the site under the PUD do not have any detrimental impact, as they are the same uses allowed in the underlying and surrounding zoning. Water runoff from precipitation on the site is addressed through the city's strict stormwater regulations. For this proposal, the majority of properties to be replaced do not currently have any stormwater control measures. Completion of this project will result in the design and installation of stormwater control system consistent with current regulations that will result in an improvement of water runoff to this area of the city. And I'm available for any additional questions.
Thank you. Further council discussion of B1. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Leonard, for that extremely helpful introduction. So in preparation for this meeting, I wanted to provide as much clarity as possible regarding council's consideration of the PUD zoning, especially since we've received requests to make some considerations that are not consistent with our usual PUD approval process, as you just heard. Or with our typical PUD approval process. I worked with staff on this, and I would like to propose an amendment which will include findings regarding the ordinance using the city's approval standards for PUDs. So I've just sent the language to Clerk Boudry for distribution, and I move that the ordinance be amended with a Section 2 to read as follows. And do I need a second before I read?
You can read it and then we'll get the second.
Okay, so please be patient. All right. The basis, so this would be an inserted Section 2 before the supplemental regs part. Findings. The basis for City Council's approval of this ordinance is as follows. The PUD satisfies the standards for PUD zoning district review in Section 5.29.11.f of Chapter 55 of Title 5 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor, given the following. First, the use, physical characteristics, design features, or amenities proposed have beneficial effects for the city in terms of public health, safety, welfare, aesthetics, or convenience. In this case, the beneficial effects that warrant this rezoning to PUD include reduced carbon emissions, reduced urban sprawl and vehicular traffic, increased housing density, greater housing affordability, and neighborhood park improvements, which are described more fully in the supplemental regulations. 2, the beneficial effects cannot be achieved under any other zoning classification because other zoning classifications do not require the beneficial effects that are provided by the PUD zoning district, such as the requirement of a LEED silver building and integrated solar power to help reduce carbon emissions. Those benefits are either not required at all or not required to the degree required in the PUD district. The use proposed does not have a detrimental effect on public utilities or surrounding properties for the following reasons. A, City Council agrees with the conclusion of the city engineer's analysis of the PUD use for impacts to public water and sanitary sewer systems, which determined that these public utilities have adequate capacity to serve the district with no detrimental effect on surrounding properties. B, the PUD district is required to comply with all city stormwater ordinances, which ensures that stormwater from the project meets all existing city requirements. As a majority of properties in this district do not currently have stormwater control measures, the installation of a system consistent with current regulations will result in a net improvement of water runoff in the area. C, the proposed development in the PUD zoning district, being subject to the applicable standards of the Unified Development Code, does not introduce any effects related to stormwater management, drainage, soil erosion, sedimentation control, outdoor lighting, or other applicable development standards that are not already possible given uses in the current underlying zoning. D, City Council agrees with the conclusion of the city traffic engineer's analysis that the multimodal transportation study provided by the developer for potential impacts of development in the proposed PUD zoning district found no unmitigated detrimental effects on surrounding property, with some improvements leading to additional safety and efficiencies in the public streets when compared with the existing zoning designation and uses. E, the permitted uses for the proposed PUD zoning district are identical as the uses allowed in the underlying as well as surrounding C1AR zoning designation, with the minor exception of temporary outdoor activities in the PUD district. As such, the rezoning to PUD continues to be consistent with surrounding uses and does not have a detrimental effect on surrounding properties. Okay, 4th reason. The use or uses proposed are consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and policies adopted, in that they follow the overarching goals of the city's comprehensive plan and city policies, which encourages more dense development with a particular emphasis on more housing overall and a wider range of housing types, encouraging more sustainable developments, living arrangements with less or no reliance on personal vehicles, and reduced vehicle miles traveled. Also, Given the underlying C1AR zoning designation of the site and surrounding area, the required standards regarding design and massing of the PUD zoning are consistent with the goals and strategies of the land use element of the comprehensive plan that emphasize the orderly transitions between higher densities or commercial and mixed uses and residential neighborhoods. The city has determined that any departure from the comprehensive plan is justified by the beneficial effects provided by the PUD zoning district as listed in the supplemental regulations. 5, the PUD zoning district exceeds the residential density of the underlying zoning district by more than 25% and is subject to the standard that at least 15% of the total dwelling units are required to be affordable housing dwelling units, or a payment in lieu shall be provided. Here, the PUD requires that 16% of the residential floor area will be dedicated to affordable housing dwelling units, or a payment in lieu contribution of $6,604,000 will be made to the city's Affordable Housing Fund. 6, the supplemental regulations include findings regarding the benefits of the PUD as well as specific enforceable requirements and standards which satisfy the requirement for analysis and justification sufficient to determine what the purported benefit is, how the special benefit will be provided, and performance standards by which the special benefit will be evaluated. 7, safe, convenient, uncongested, and well-defined vehicular and pedestrian circulation within and to the district is provided. Front setbacks measured from back of curb as well as from the lot line ensure sufficient amenity and walking zones. Electric vehicle charging stations are included at a higher rate than normally required, and alternative methods of transportation are encouraged with bicycle parking requirements that are beyond that required by the underlying zoning designation, including the inclusion of specific requirements for both cargo bikes and e-bikes. 8, disturbance of natural features, historical features, and historically significant architectural features are limited to the minimum necessary to allow a reasonable use of the land. There are minimum natural features on site, including 2 landmark trees, and the zoning ordinance requires mitigation of those trees. There are no historical or historically significant features. The benefits listed above by the zoning district to the community are substantially greater than the impact to the very minimal natural features on the site. City Council hereby incorporates the planning staff report by reference in these findings and has based its decision on the complete city record of review, including but not limited to city staff review, the Planning Commission review, public hearings and communications, and City Council's deliberation of the PUD zoning ordinance.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Song. Councilmember Dish, you still have the floor.
I'm happy to hear questions.
Further discussion of the main motion as amended. I'm sorry, further discussion of the amendment. Thank you. For my part, I am grateful for that articulation of the record before council and the conclusions upon which, if the amendment passes, upon which our decisions will be based, in part. Further discussion of the amendment. All in favor? All opposed? The amendment is approved. Further discussion of the main motion as amended. Councilmember Dish.
I'll just because sometimes this isn't clear, but what we're doing right now is we are voting on the rezoning, and we will be talking about the site plan in a few minutes. But of course, so in the supplemental regs, you will find many things that are on the site plan. And I think the thing that I haven't said, it seems I've said quite a lot, but the thing that I haven't said is that the PUD affects a coordinated development of 12 parcels for a more efficient 14-story residential redevelopment of parcels within walking distance to the UM Central Campus. So we can think about efficiency. I mean, one of the PUD standards is efficient land use. We can think about efficiency in relationship to that context, which is the commercial and job context of the campus. We can also think about it in the ways that the proposed project provides an increase in dwelling units for an increase in density. And there will be a 2.6 times increase in density as judged by floor area ratio, and a 10 times increase in the number of dwelling units. So that is, what that tells us is that this building is not very much out of, the use is very similar to the underlying current use, C1AR. It's going to be taller than what you could currently have, but C1AR is already providing for dense and mixed-use development. So I plan to support this, as I did on Planning Commission, and I hope you will too.
Further discussion, the main motion is amended. For my part, I am excited that this will be moving forward. Again, reflecting upon the findings that council has considered and adopted, I believe that that this zoning is appropriate for this location, is beneficial to the community at large, and proper with respect to adjacent properties. Further discussion, Councilmember Ackman.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to, my pleasure to see this before us, this Ward 4 development in a corridor that has honestly seen some businesses struggling. There's a lot of empty storefronts down there, and you kind of see this like constant rotation. And so I'm looking forward to the increased density. I hope that supports local businesses being there. The thing that, when we consider detrimental effects, I think the thing that stands out most to me is the underlying zoning and what it allows, and how this is not introducing any negative effects beyond that, and in fact is like doing much that's beneficial in the way of water management. So I'm excited about it. Thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. B2, an ordinance to amend sections 460 and 461 of Chapter 49, Sidewalks of Title 4, Streets and Sidewalks of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of B2. Councilmember Cornell.
I'll just give a quick reminder. This came before us last time. Basically, the big changes in this ordinance are to allow the owner's agent, which is the person who is registered with the city for a property, to be held to account for not removing snow in a timely fashion. It would increase the fines for not removing snow and treat commercial properties different. So one of the big differences is our previous ordinance treated private homeowners the same as multifamily homeowners. And so we would find that there'd be half blocks of streets where an apartment complex was located that snow removal did not take place, and obviously created a pretty big transportation challenge. So folks who have more frontage would pay more. And this also adds in 2024 email as an option for your citation to be delivered to you. So the owner's agent is required to have a valid email address on file with the city, and this citation could be delivered to them via email versus mail. And if you can imagine, if you live in Florida and own a house here that you're renting, or commercial property or apartment building here in Ann Arbor, here in Florida, it's going to probably take a good week for that citation to get to you, and God willing, the snow would be melted by then and therefore moot. So the real crux of this and goal of this ordinance change is to address a lot of feedback that City Council and City staff received after our snow and ice incidents over this past winter, largely from folks who were either on bike, on foot, or folks who had limited mobility. And so the idea is that we need clear sidewalks and paths to get around in the city, and sometimes that requires quick action, and when that doesn't happen, it really impacts folks who don't get around as easy as the rest of us and who rely on something other than a car sometimes to get around. So I'm excited to support this. I hope my colleagues will support this. They feel kind of obvious in terms of how we treat property in the city, but I'm excited to see this come forward after the amount of feedback that we received, and hope that citizens see that we are listening, and although change can take time, we are paying attention.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DS1, resolution to approve 732 Packard Five Corners PUD site plan development agreement. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of DS1. Mr. Leonard. Oh.
The same.
What he said, what you said earlier. We will incorporate by reference Mr. Leonard's prior statements. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. I'm not going to go into detail on the site plan because we've really already heard a lot about this project, but I want to thank staff for all the work that they've done to establish the PUD district and all its requirements. Like other PUDs, this PUD site plan was developed along with and to be consistent with the PUD zoning requirements that we discussed in detail earlier. This site plan not only meets all of the technical requirements of city code, but it also brings significant public benefits to the city through the PUD zoning, and we already elaborated those in our consideration of the zoning. So I agree with the staff report and the discussion and recommendation of the Planning Commission that the PUD site plan is consistent with the PUD zoning, and it meets all of the standards for a PUD site plan, and I will be supporting it.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution to appoint Erica Liu to the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission, moved by Councilmember Song, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC1. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC2, resolution in support of boosting state investment in public transit, moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of DC2. Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just need one quick second. I want to thank my colleagues at Detroit Disability Power, along with CODI member Rosanita Ratcliffe for helping to draft this resolution. I also want to thank my co-sponsors, Councilmember Ackman, Briggs, and Harrison, and the CEO of the Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority, Matthew Carpenter, for his assistance in reviewing the resolution. So this resolution urges the state legislature to increase local bus operating funding in the fiscal year 2025 state budget to at least $285 million to maintain state reimbursement levels to AAATA and other transit agencies. Failure to keep up with inflation would threaten to undo the service improvements made by the AAATA in recent years and potentially force cuts to essential bus services. Essentially with the rate of inflation, there needs to be at least a 9% increase in funding of our mass transit just to maintain its current systems. And if you couple that with the need for increased wages and the compensation for transit personnel in many parts of our state, it really paints a strong picture that we need to increase local bus operating funding to really make positive progress in our state and actually be able to sustain growth. This resolution is also in support of a legislative package that was introduced by State Rep. Jason Morgan, Representatives Jason Hoskins and Mike McFall, Senators Mallory McMarrow and Mary Kavanaugh, which supports the largest investment in housing and public transit in Michigan history, with a $1 billion investment in housing, $2 billion investment in creating a transformational mass transit fund, and $2.5 billion in a reformed state-led economic development program, which I hope is also funded. For these reasons that I've shared tonight, I hope that my colleagues will understand the impact to the AAATA and will join me in supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been using AAATA, formerly known as AATA, since I was young, relying on it to get to appointments, libraries in the area, and events around the area. Public transportation has always been a vital part of my life and our community. In the first quarter of this year alone, our public transportation system has facilitated over 20,000 ADA trips, 1 million boardings, and more than 90 van pools. These impressive numbers highlight the essential role that public transportation plays in our community. Recently, I wrote a story about a young man who takes Amtrak from Pontiac to the Ypsilanti Transit Center and then takes the AAATA bus to the Blake Transit Center here in Ann Arbor to get to work. Stories like his emphasize the importance of a well-connected public transportation system for accessing employment and other essential services. While the AAATA has made significant improvements and extended services thanks to our recent millage, the growing demand means we urgently need increased state funding. This investment is essential to enhance accessibility, reduce traffic congestion, lower admissions, and provide key connections for work, school, and healthcare. By investing in public transportation, we invest in a sustainable, connected future that benefits everyone. Thank you to Council Members Ghazi Edwin, Briggs, and Achman for bringing this forward and urging the state legislature to increase local public transportation funding to at least $285 million. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Achman.
This is really important, and I'm so grateful that you brought it forward. I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize MDOT. Some of you may have heard maybe a couple of weeks ago they announced a change to their plans for US 23 after hearing quite a bit of community feedback from this body and others about wanting us to invest in other transit options instead of adding a lane for cars. And I was excited to see that they're going to be working with the RIDE, and one possibility that they're considering is bus on shoulder operations, which is something that's used in other states. It's actually not legal right now, but they could make changes to that. So I feel like these things are interrelated. As Councilmember Harrison said, transportation connects people to economic opportunity. And this is just vital to the vitality of our economy and the mobility of people. So thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Dino.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to propose what I hope will be a friendly amendment that I've just sent over to the clerk that would add to the I believe second to last resolve clause, that copies of this resolution be transmitted to the governor, add the chairpersons of the Michigan House and Michigan Senate Appropriations Committees, and all Washtenaw County members of the Michigan Legislature.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Harrison. Is that friendly to the body? Friendly to the body. Further discussion, the main motion is amended. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC 4, resolution authorizing application and implementation. Thank you, my apologies. DC 3, resolution directing the appropriate use of facial recognition technology, moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, second by Councilmember Harrison. Discussion, please, of DC 3. Thank you. Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
So first I want to thank City Prosecutor Jen Janetsky, Professor Molly Kleinman at the Ford School of Science, Technology, and Public Policy, the co-sponsors of the resolution. I'd also like to thank Councilmember Lynn Song for helping us to start this effort. This is a long time coming. It really went through numerous seasons and different council members. And also thank AAPD Police Chief Andre Anderson for also helping to review this. So as many of you know, there are racial injustices and inequities in the development of facial recognition technology. Over half of American adults, or 117 million people, have photos in a facial recognition network used by law enforcement. Although white men experience a 99% accuracy rating with facial recognition technology falsely identifies African American and Asian faces 10 to 100 times more than Caucasian faces. It's more likely to misidentify women, specifically women of color, with African American females having the highest rate of misidentification, as well as transgender, gender nonconforming, youth, and people with disabilities. So this resolution really seeks to limit the use of facial recognition technology, ensure that it never be used as the principal or sole basis for identification, arrest, or prosecution in the city of Ann Arbor. Specifically, it directs the Ann Arbor Police Department to enact a policy in order to achieve this. It further directs the city attorney's office to implement policy ensuring that extra care and caution is used when making charging decisions in cases where facial recognition technology is used as part of a lawful investigation, and that criminal charges are never brought forward where facial recognition technology is, again, the principal or sole basis used to identify a suspect. It further calls on the Washington County Prosecutor's Office and the Michigan Office of the Attorney General, as well as other law enforcement entities in Washington County and the state of Michigan to adopt similar policies aimed at remedying the harms posed by facial recognition technology. And I hope my colleagues will help to support this resolution tonight.
Further discussion? Councilmember Dino.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the sponsors, Councilmembers Ghazi, Edwin, Harrison, and Watson, for picking up the baton and continuing to move this forward. As many of you will remember, and some of you will not because you were not here yet, this process started many years ago. We even developed a working group with members of both ICPOC and the Human Rights Commission, Councilmember Song and myself, aimed really at getting us to an ordinance. And I know that we ran into some considerable hurdles along the way, but I am grateful that the council members bringing this forward were able to get us to a result where we have at least an effective policy in place. And I also want to give credit to our new police chief, Andre Anderson, and our assistant city attorney, Jen Nunetsky, because they really helped to continue to move this forward and make sure that we could get to the place that we're at today. And so I am grateful for this coming forward and would ask to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Councilmember Song.
I'll echo everyone's enthusiasm and patience for this. This has been so many discussions, and I really appreciate the carefulness around this, the language, and then also if I can also just point to how it's also, this started a city attorney ago, a police chief ago, and here we are. Being able to welcome this new expectation of ourselves in response to what the community has asked of us. I think it's really appropriate that it's being spearheaded by council members who've been introducing really effective work when it comes to secondary traffic offenses and thinking about how facial recognition could have been involved in that process. And when it comes to accessibility issues and how facial recognition could have been influenced that kind of work. So to have council members and Councilmember Watson coming in for Human Rights Commission also is really meaningful to see this come through finally. So if I can be added as a co-sponsor, I thank everyone for their work.
Councilmember Harrison.
I think my peer, Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, said it all. I'll just, add a couple things. Some of you may have heard that facial recognition technology is simply another investigative tool for law enforcement, but the reality on the ground does paint a very different picture. Across the country, we have seen case after case where the inaccuracies of this technology have led to wrongful arrests, disproportionately impacting Black and brown people. At least 5 lawsuits have been filed against municipalities due to these errors. So these systems are not neutral. They struggle to differentiate between people of color, leading to situations like the outrageous false arrest of a woman in Detroit who was 8 months pregnant. This resolution does help to ensure it's used responsibly and it has safeguards in place. These cameras, these algorithms are hard-coded with biases that lead to unjust consequences. We do need to address these issues head-on. This resolution is a step towards ensuring fairer, more equitable policing practices in our community as technology advances and protecting the rights of all of our residents. So I just want to thank staff and our new chief, Andre Anderson, senior attorney Jen Janetsky, and everyone who worked on this. As Council Member Radina mentioned, it has passed hands and seasons. So I'm glad to be a co-sponsor tonight. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Do we have the pleasure today of, I'm just trying. DC4, resolution authorizing application implementation of Michigan Shared Streets and Spaces Grant, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Harrison. Discussion, please, of DC4. Councilmember Cornell.
I'll be very quick since we want to get on to the attorney.
Apparently I do.
The state is offering quick build grants for up to $200,000 for projects that are aimed at improving our streets. And so this resolution is just showing that council supports the Downtown Development Authority pursuing a grant specific for its project on the 4th Avenue Street improvement, and really commends DDA for pursuing our Vision Zero, our carbon neutrality, affordable housing, and in our recent economic development resolutions, placemaking as priorities, and shows that we support the fact that they are centering equity and accessibility and innovation in their work. So I'm excited for them to potentially get this grant and support them applying for it, obviously.
Councilor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I wholeheartedly support the 4th Avenue Street and Transit Improvement projects, and I want to commend Councilmember Cornell for bringing this important grant resolution forward. This initiative represents a significant investment in enhancing downtown Ann Arbor and creating a more vibrant, accessible, and attractive experience for all residents and visitors. By improving pedestrian and transit infrastructure, the project will directly support local businesses and encourage sustainable travel options. The project will bring much-needed improvements to public transportation, increased efficiency and amenities for those traveling to and from the downtown area, and will make getting around by bus more convenient and attractive. Additionally, the project incorporates crucial stormwater management and infrastructure upgrades, fostering a more resilient downtown environment. This project aligns perfectly with our community's commitment to equity, accessibility, and sustainability. It demonstrates our collective dedication to creating a safer, more inclusive, and environmentally conscious city for all, and I'm excited to support this tonight.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Ms. Kaur.
No, thank you, Mayor. No closed session tonight.
We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report? Moved by Councilmember Radina, second by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion of the clerk's report. Mr. Mahoney.
I just wanted to acknowledge that we clearly still have a couple of wrinkles to work out with our new system. Apologies to Mr. Stolberg. We will continue to iron those out, and hopefully by next time we'll all do better.
Further discussion of the clerk's report. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Do you have communications today from our city attorney?
No, thank you, Mayor.
May I have a motion, please, to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.